and welcome back to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. Well, it's kind of a good day, right? We got some stuff done this week, which I kind of predicted that everything would be done by this following weekend. And I was right, almost. We don't know who our coordinators as far as offensive coordinator and defensive coordinators, but we do know we have a new GM and we have a new head coach, so that's what we're talking about today. And I just want to shout out Happy Friday to all you working stiffs. And actually, I was waiting to do this show today to hear a press conference, but I saw that Ryan Poles was in Hallis Hall signing Matt, the head coach guy, and there has been no press conference. I'm kind of surprised. So I really wanted to hear that before I came on the air, but whatever. I got a life too, so I got to get this show done so I can go out and have some fun. All right, so let's get to it. I know a lot of people have a lot of, what's going to happen here, right? And so let's talk about it. The Bears hired their GM first, which was the right thing to do, Ryan Poles. He's young, and but I like it. And he is 36 years old. I think this is everything that I read about this guy is really, really positive, so I like it. My son made a comment to me like, well, yeah, that's what they said about Ryan Pace. I said, you know what? You got to give the guy a chance, right? Just because the last guy sucked doesn't mean the next guy will. So we got to give the guy a chance because, everybody needs a chance. That's how they become what they did, I mean, like Bill Belichick and Bruce Arians. Somebody gave them a chance once. So we got to give this guy a chance for the GM. So let's talk about him a little bit. He is 36 years old, as I said, and what's really kind of cool is it's kind of like, I don't know, serendipity type of thing where he was, the Bears signed him as an undrafted free agent when he came out of Boston College. He was an offensive lineman. I know, isn't that cool? And then now look at him. He's our GM. So there's, I don't know, something there. That's what I kind of like. It kind of brought the hair on the back of my neck standing up a little bit when I read that. But it didn't really work out for him. So he didn't really stay in the NFL very long. But the fact that the Bears signed him was kind of a cool thing, right? So, so let's talk about him a little bit. So he in 2009, at the age of 24, he took the job with the Chiefs as player personnel assistant, and then he moved his way up to executive director of player personnel for the Chiefs, and he worked his and starting in 2009, he was assistant to the no, wait a minute. He worked his way up and started as player personnel, as I said that, and he worked his way up, and he was also in charge of. He was director of college scouting, and he scouted Patrick Mahomes. Although that's not like a big feather in his cap because everybody knew Patrick Mahomes was going to be good, right? Except for Ryan Pace. And I liked Mitchell, but we should have taken Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying. So he had a lot to do with Patrick Mahomes. And what I really thought was kind of cool about him, as I read, this is really impressive, that while he was with the Chiefs, he survived 3 GM changes while he was there, and they kept him every single time. Usually when GMs come in, they clean house and they bring their own people in, but they let him stay because they were so impressed by him, and they really felt that this guy could go places, so they let him stay. Again, 3 GM changes, and he kept his job all 3 times, and they let him just go up the ladder, which I thought was really, really great. And he won a Super Bowl with Kansas City. Has a lot to do with that. And And he had 3 teams really wanting him this time, and the Bears got him. And one thing I heard that he said I really, really liked. Now this is just what I read. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I'm betting it is. He said to the Bears when he was about to sign his paperwork, he said, "I'm picking the head coach, and if you do not agree with me, then I'm going to get on a plane and I'm going to Minnesota," which was, I guess, his next choice of place to go and work for, because Minnesota's looking for a GM too. So that's what he told the Bears, and the Bears were like, okay. And then he sat with 3 guys. I know Dan Quinn, I know Matt Eberflus, who was our coach, and then Jim Caldwell, I believe. And I know that the Dan Quinn these are all second interviews with the new coach, with the new GM, Ryan Poles. And they said the Dan Quinn one went really long into the evening, from the afternoon to the evening. So, a lot of people thought it was going to be Dan Quinn. I'm glad it's not. You know what? I did say I wanted somebody who has experience as a head coach. Yes, I did. And I still am on the fence about that, but I'm willing to give this guy a chance, okay? So we're going to talk about that. So I like the pick for Ryan Poles. I think that's a really, I like him. He's young. He's got a lot of experience, and he's been on a winning team. Although I did say when they fired Matt Nagy, I don't want anybody from Kansas City, didn't I? If you guys remember that, but oh well, I wasn't really thinking. But the GM's a little bit different, right? So I'm gonna, we'll see. So, but I think it's a really good pick. He's young, like I said, and it sounds like he has a lot of experience. And the fact that he was drafted by the Bears, just has a little something extra. Do you know what I mean? So, and I heard him say, "Yes, we're going to win here." So, I hope so. Okay, so let's talk about the new head coach that he hired, Matt Eberflus. Matt is 51. He's married and has 2 daughters. And Matt he did a lot of coaching in college before he entered the NFL. He spent his first 9 years coaching after he got out of college at his school where he went to college, University of Toledo. So he was there for 9 years. And then he moved to Missouri, where he was D coordinator for 8 years. And then in 2009, he moved to the NFL, and he started with Cleveland. He started as a linebackers coach under Rob Ryan. Now, he has developed, I read, a lot of linebackers in his day, so he's really good with linebackers and backfield, they say, really good. And I know he's the head coach, but he's really good at that, so I'm happy about that. And he was at Cleveland for 2 seasons, and then he headed to Dallas, and he was there for 6 seasons, from 2011 to 2017, and he helped mentor the backfield, and the linebackers, because he was the D coordinator for the linebackers coach. So he was a linebacker coach for Dallas. And through his years there, he mentored a lot of really guys, and he really made them a solid core. They were really good there for a while. And then in 2018, he went to Indy, as we all know he came from, and he was the D coordinator there until now. Now, he got hired. Josh Daniels wanted him as his D coordinator when Josh Daniels back in 2018 was named the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and at the last minute he backed out, which I think is just shitty. Because he had hired all these coaches, and then he changed his mind. And he's the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. So I would never want him as a coach because you can't trust his word. So they had already hired Matt. And so when the head coach, Frank Reich came through, he was hired as the head coach. And the GM said to Frank, "I really want you to meet Matt. They had never met before, and I'd really like you to consider keeping him on as our defensive coordinator. I really think this guy's got something. Now, Frank Reich did not have to do that as head coach, but after meeting with him, he said, I really liked his philosophy and how he was, saying this and that, and he looked at his past, and so he decided to keep him, and it was a smart idea because he is credited with installing an ultra demanding, this I really like, demanding culture of hustle, discipline, and teamwork. That is something we all know the Bears were lacking. Discipline. I'm not saying that they weren't working as a team, but I'm just not sure about the hustle either. So I'd like to see especially the discipline, because Matt Nagy had no discipline there at all. I think he just wanted to be everybody's friend. Like I said, he was a good rah-rah guy. He really was, but after that, he sucked. So I like that this guy, Matt Eberflus, is demanding, and he wants hustle, he wants discipline, he wants teamwork, and I like it. So that is something the Bears have lacked these last 4 years, and we all know it. So I think we're going to see a turnaround here. And he really turned around the Colts defense. When he joined the team the year before in 2017, they were 4-12. And in the next year, they were a playoff team, and they became 10-6, and they went to the AFC divisional playoff round. So he took the defense, the Colts defense. The year before he went there, they were 30th overall in defense, and the next year they went to 11th in 2018. So that is a huge improvement, and it got better and better and better. Yes. They lost their last game to the Jaguars and didn't get to go to the playoffs. But in my opinion, if they couldn't beat the Jaguars, they shouldn't have been there. And I'm not blaming all the defense. If you followed Indy, the last month of Indy, Carson Wentz, their quarterback, he has started out strong after he got hurt a lot, and then he had a good season until December, and then he wasn't so good. And you know what? You can't blame the defense for everything. So people were like, wow, he couldn't even beat Jacksonville. He wasn't on the field, people, okay? So let's pump the brakes a little bit and see what he has. Everywhere he went, if you read about him, the defense has improved immensely. The linebackers in the backfield totally changed. But he's not going to be our defensive coordinator. That's the thing. But he is, going to overlook the defense. So I'll be curious to see who he hires. Now, this is the important part. So everyone's pissed because we went for a defensive head coach, but the last three head coaches were offensive coaches, and they sucked. Trestman was supposed to be the next coming. He was awful, and when his hat was off, he looked like a child predator. I swear to God, creepy. And then Fox kind of sucked. I'm not really sure what he was, to be honest with you, but I think he was just holding down the fort until they could figure out who they wanted to hire, and then they went and hired Matt Nagy, who was offense, and he sucked. So the last winning coach we had with the Bears was Lovie Smith, and he was defense. So, but the thing is, big difference between Lovie Smith and Matt was Lovie had a really, really good defense, and his offense was okay, and he didn't have a quarterback. Matt has a quarterback, we're hoping. And he's got a running team, and he's got potential. And he's got potential on the defense, although we're going to lose guys because there's so many, 31 are free agents, and a lot of them are on defense. So we're not really sure what kind of defense we're going to have this year. So I think there's going to be a big change with the Bears defense, especially under Matt. So, but if they win, I could care less. I did say that I'd like to see Hicks retire with the Bears, but I really don't think that's going to happen. He'd have to take a huge pay cut, and I don't see it happening. But he might not get a job anywhere. So I don't know. We'll see. But so what's really important here is who Matt's going to hire, as everyone's, I'm sure, talking in Illinois, his offensive coordinator, because he's got to hire somebody and I believe they know who that might be. He might already have come to the table with who he would hire as an offensive coordinator. And that to me would be the fact that the Bears would be like, oh, okay. So I think he came with a name in mind and somebody he thinks that can mentor and work with Justin Fields, because Justin Fields is not there yet, people. I know, don't get all over me about it, but it's a fact. He's still young, and Matt Nagy screwed him up. So it's almost like he's going to be starting over this year, in my opinion, in 2022. He's got some experience under his belt, but he has a long way to go. And he's got to stop the fumbling, and he's got to be able to make faster decisions and better reads. So, but the one thing I read about Matt is that he is a believer of, tough defense, running the ball, which then he said opens up the passing. And I must have said that about 100 times last year, probably 1,000 on my show. That would have helped Justin Fields if Matt Nagy ran the ball more. He would always start out running it, and then he would abandon it in the second half. And it just so... Matt is a believer of that, which I am all over, because that's what I am, old school defense, run the ball, which helps your quarterback open the lanes for passing. And that's what Justin needs. So, besides a good offensive line. But he needs work, people. He does need work. And if we want him to be what he's supposed to be, then we need a coordinator who can really, really work with him and get in with his head. Probably need a good quarterback coach as well, who can be his buddy and somebody who can relate to him. And that's really what they need, somebody who can relate to him. So that has got to be his first and most important hire. I believe, like I said, he already has somebody in mind, and he told them that in the interview. Now, the defensive coordinator, I'm not sure what he's going to do. Like I've said before, I wouldn't mind keeping who we have, and I forgot his name, but it doesn't matter. I remember, Pickled. I wouldn't mind keeping him, because I thought the defense got better and better and better as the season went on this last year, even though we had a lot of injuries and we had a lot of COVID sit-outs and a backfield that wasn't very good. So considering all that, I think we did pretty well with him. So I could live with that guy, but I don't know if he'll keep him. That's up to him. He is the coach, and he gets to make the decisions, him and Ryan Poles. So, and I really do hope that Ryan had all the say in hiring Matt. He said that's what the rule was, as I told you earlier in the show. So, and Matt is a little bit older, but he's only 51. So, I know my son was saying he didn't want us hiring Jim Caldwell because he was too old, and some other people. He wanted new, but 51 isn't bad. And you know what? If the guy, and he said, we're going to start winning again, and we're going to go to the playoffs. We're going to go to the Super Bowl, in a small little tidbit that I read about him. Again, they haven't done a press conference yet, which I'm kind of surprised, but whatever. It'll probably, what's going to happen, right, is the press conference is going to happen right after I get off the air. That is the story of my life. A day late and a dollar short. Ba-dum-bum. Boo! So... this isn't going to be a long show, but I like the hires. I know a lot. I've read some things for most people. I know Indy, I guess, was saying some fans were in there like, oh, good, we're so glad he's gone. Why? He improved your defense every year. It just... And my son was reading stuff, and I said, don't read that stuff. It's people's opinions, right? And like, again, I've told you on many shows, don't read your stories from Facebook, because those are just... some stupid, dumb reporter across the other side of the country that knows nothing about the Bears and is just writing, and they put stupid little headlines in there to make you read the articles, and they're not even true, people, okay? Trust me. If you've been watching me for 2 years, you know you can trust me, right? I would not steer you wrong. And I've got to tell you, since Matt Nagy, which I got to thank him, was fired, my viewers have gone up. I don't know. I guess now people want to talk about the Bears again. Watching them every week was hard enough, so people didn't want to watch my show because they knew I'd be bitching every time. And, but they did go up when Matt Nagy got fired, so right on, baby. So we'll see. I'm really happy that they've got these guys in place. I think we're going to hear in the next day or two. Our coordinators, our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinators, we've said are very important. And then Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have got to get going because, and the second week in March starts free agency. So, and there's a lot of really good free agents out there this season. I was reading, and a lot of teams are having problems this year that the Bears had last year where they had no cap space. A lot of them are having problems with that, so they're not going to be able to keep some of these guys. So, I did see quite a few offensive linemen out there, but the majority of them are already in their 30s, so I'm not sure I'd go that route. But if there's a really good one and you could get it for a good deal, I'd bring one in. I'd like to see somebody who's been playing in the NFL brought in, signed in free agency to work good on the offensive line, because that'll help when you go after the rookies in the draft. And then, so the free agency market should be very interesting this year. I do not want the Bears, though, to just buy somebody and plug them in there for 2 years or something. No, we want somebody to last. We need consistency, especially with the offensive line. I mean, if you look behind me here, you've got the 1980s Bears offensive line. I think they started together in 82 and went to pretty much 90, and they were a freaking awesome offensive line, and they were together a long, long time. Consistency is what we need. Guys that have worked together so they know what they're going to do. So, you know what I mean? So that's important. So we'll see what these two, but they are, and then after the free agency market opens up at the second week of March, then at the end of April, we have the draft. Of course, we do not have a first rounder, everybody knows, and we only have, 5 or 6 picks, and that's it. I don't think we have more than 5. And but they got to do that too. So it'll be really interesting to see how Ryan Poles does in the draft and the free agency to be honest with you. So I think that'll be a telling sign, but they're going to have their hands full, so they got to get to know their players right now, the ones, and they got to find out who they're going to sign and who they're not. So Ryan Poles, man, he is going to be one busy hombre for the next 4 months, And after, when he gets to May, he can kind of breathe a sigh of relief a little bit, and then camp starts. So, but he has got his handfuls because, as I said, you've got guys you got to sign that are contracts are up. You got free agency, and you got the draft. So he's going to be busy, and thank God he's only 36 because he's going to need the energy to do what he's going to do, right? So there's going to be a lot happening. I'm really excited. I know, you know what, and at the end of the day, Bears fans just have to believe, rally around this, and hope that, this is the real deal. And I think it is. But then I always am an optimist about every year. After 1 year's over and then the next year starts, I'm always an optimist. I just am. My friends laugh about me. They're like, oh, you say they're going to win every year. I can't help it. I love them and I can't help it. But one thing is, I read in one article, they said, McCaskey said all these things and all these things, so let's see if it's true. Like he said, money's not a big issue right now and this and that, so we'll see. And free agency stuff. And I'm hoping Poles doesn't, sign somebody for some of these contracts that pasted, because they were stupid-ass contracts. Stupid-ass. Like, I like Mac, but he's been hurt a lot the last 2 years, and he got a heavy friendly contract, which is going to make it very impossible to trade him. If he didn't have that contract that Pace gave him, we could trade him. Now, we're not going to get a number 1 for him because, had he not been hurt the last 2 seasons, you probably would get a number 1, but now you're not gonna. So yeah, I'm hoping that Ryan Poles knows his stuff, and we're gonna find out. We are gonna find out pretty quickly in the next few months. So let's all be positive. Don't be finding the bad about this. Don't be looking for the bad about these two guys. Let's concentrate on the good stuff they've done. Everybody coaching wise and GMs and anything have made dumb mistakes. That's how you learn. You learn from your mistakes. Well, most people do. I'm not sure I have. I tend to just keep on doing it. Anyways, so let's stay positive. Look for the good, not the negative. Because it just doesn't matter. You have no control. So let's just be good fans and hope that Matt, the head coach, hires a good offensive coordinator, and we can find out if Justin's the real deal. Because that's the million-dollar question here. Is Justin Fields really as good as everybody says he's supposed to be? I did not see it last year. I saw flashes. And if you really think about it, so did you. Okay? But we'll see. Ohio State, as I've said many, many times, does not have a good track record with quarterbacks in the NFL. So I'm hoping that Justin changes that narrative. Okay? So let's see what happens. We're going to know probably by next week, probably early next week, if not sooner, who the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinators are, and then they'll start hiring. So I'm concerned about those two positions now. We've already got the other two highs, now the next two important ones, and particularly the OC. So let's see what happens. So stay positive. This is a good thing. We're moving forward. We're cleaning the slate and starting over. So it just can't be as bad as Nagy. It just can't. So look at it that way, okay? Because he sucked. He was a problem from the moment he started, when he got there in 2018 and he tried to change Mitchell and screwed everything up. And that's the truth, okay? So good riddance, Matt Nagy. Get out of here. I don't even want to ever see your face again. So I approve of the hires. I know I'm gonna have a lot of comments probably, but that's just what it is. And you know what? It's my show, so I can say what I want. Boom, boom, yeah, baby. So let's see what happens. That's all I'm gonna say today. I'm not gonna go on and on and on and repeat myself. So good job, Bears. So far, you still have some more work to do. And then once we get everybody in place, then the job really starts, and you gotta get your feet and run. Because they got a lot of work to do. So, and you got a lot of people, Chicago Bears, dependent on you. Okay? Including this old lady. Because, I'm not getting any younger. And, you need to start winning again. And that's in order. So, as always, I want to thank everybody who watches. This wasn't a very exciting show, but I gave you some stuff about the two guys. And we'll see what happens in the next coming days. Because, step 2 is the two coordinators, and then we'll go from there. So, I don't know. I may do one more show next week for the if the coordinators come on, or I may not. I'm just not sure. So keep an eye out for me. If nothing's happening, there's no point. And then, I may pop up here and there as the season goes on, the off season on, for sure when free agency starts, you're going to hear from me. And then, of course, the draft. So for right now, we'll see what happens. And last weekend, great playoff games, and there's only 2 games left this weekend, which makes me so sad. I'm rooting for the Rams to win, and I'm rooting for Cincinnati to win. That's who I want to go to the Super Bowl. The Rams and Cincinnati, and I think it would be a really good Super Bowl. So we'll see what happens this weekend, right? And then I go into my football depression until football starts again. Yeah, that's me. I love my White Sox, but they don't do it for me. Baseball don't do what football does for me because it just gets me jazzed, football. You bet, baby. All right, on that note, thank you again for watching. I really, really appreciate it. You know what? I say it every week. I love you guys. You rock. You're awesome. Tell everybody about me. And I always end my show this way. Let's be kind to one another. Let's help each other out. Let's stop hate and just come together. Just be kind. We need kindness, a lot of it right now. It's been a rough couple of years, and we never know what somebody's really going on in their lives behind their closed doors. So you just treat people the way you want them to treat you. All right? And I love you guys. We'll see what happens this weekend. I hope my predictions come true. And I really hope we have some really good news coming out of Hallis Hall. And stay positive, because 2022, baby, is gonna be a good year. I'm telling you, you heard it on Let's Talk Chicago Bears, baby. Okay? And on that note, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby, and I'll see ya next time.